on. So if I can now call on Uche, who is the Chief Executive Officer from the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. Then I'm going to call on Solomon Asamoah from the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, who you know, and then Sandeep Rachuria, who is head of the Kenyan Pension Fund Consortium. Over to you, Uche.
Excellency, thank you very much. I was very intrigued by the comments you made about the Inga Dam project and how you're going to make it a regional project. Obviously, some of these things, the challenges with regional projects is obviously getting everyone to come together. And I say that only because there are a number of hydro dam projects that I see that are in planning. And they are also, because of the water rights issue, can also cause friction with the neighboring countries. In addressing this and making it a regional project, can you speak to how you manage to, or what you are doing to address the various needs of the various countries involved, and how you're pulling together such a conversation to make sure that it works for everyone involved? Without question, this checks a sustainability box for a lot of people in terms of the fact that we can reuse the water resources, but at the same time, to avoid all the unintended consequences, just getting the governance together and getting everyone to work together. We're quite keen to see how that is being addressed.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. The issue is not why, but the issue is how. I think that's very interesting. First, we all agree that all the countries in Africa are energy deficient. The cost of energy in Africa is actually scaring investors away from the continent. If you take a country like the Gambia, the cost of energy is like 34 cents per unit. That will scare anybody away to come in. It's too expensive. In most of African countries, it is in the double digits in terms of US cents per unit. Now, the demand is very high. So you find in the Southern African region, you have deficiencies. South Africa used to be self-sufficient, but now, because of the expansion of manufacturing in that country, their demand far exceeds the capacity. So, but the good thing is that we have in Africa regional power pools. We've got the Southern African power pool, West Africa, Northern Africa.
I think we've lost sound.
First is to connectivity between the various power pools on the continent. Then you can then be able to supply it continentally. First, we need to deal with the issue of generation. But simultaneously, we also address the issue of supply.
Excellency, if I can interrupt. Yeah, sorry, I think you're. Oh, there. Okay.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
What I'm saying is that we have the issue of connectivity. At the moment, as I mentioned, South Africa is ready to sign to import 5,000 megawatts from Inga. Namibia is ready. Angola is ready. Zambia and Tanzania is ready. Now, then, out of Tanzania, those other countries are in the Southern African power pool. Then you've got the East African power pool, which brings together Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. Now it's connecting Rwanda, Burundi. Now Kenya is already connected to Ethiopia. which will then, it's also now connected to Sudan, Sudan to Egypt. So you're going to have this connectivity across the continent. And if in Eastern Africa you connect Tanzania to Zambia, you already connected the East African power pool, the Southern African power pool. That way now you have the connectivity. So from the DRC, you connect to the Southern African power pool, which will then in turn to connect the Eastern African power pool, then through Ethiopia to the Northern Africa. The DRC also to connect to Congo, the Republic of Congo, to Central African power pool, and then to Nigeria, and then you're ready into West African power pool. So connectivity is an issue, it's a challenge, but it is not an insurmountable challenge. It's something that is actually achievable across the continent. Therefore, we address that. We also address the issue of generation. The INGA initially was estimated to have a capacity of 42,000 megawatts. Now the latest study shows that it goes up to 110,000 megawatts, far much in excess of the demand of DRC the next 50 to 100 years. So it is something that is available. You can say that it is a low-hanging fruit among the other projects in the continent, which can be achieved through the 5% AU agenda. That's the reason why I'm ending my response to you by again pleading that all the fund managers yield to the AU appeal 5% agenda. Thank you.
Very much, Excellency. Uche, I hope that's addressed your point, and we're certainly looking forward to your remarks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, it has. Thank you very much. And I think good luck with that, Your Excellency, and we all learn from how you get everyone together to get it done, and I hope it gets well executed. And I'm only interested in this also because we are currently in Nigeria. We've been in advanced discussions on a project. It's on the nameplate is about 3,000 megawatts hydro dam project that actually has been on the drawing board for several decades, but we've actually now finally started to get it rolling. Unfortunately, obviously, we are currently going through a situation where the world is going through a recession. So we're looking at that project closely, and I think there's a lot to learn from how you're making the Inca Dam work to make sure that we get the cooperation of our neighboring countries. Within the NSIA, now to my main remarks, I think what we have learned in the current situation and the things we're working on have been evolving. There are probably three lessons that we've learned with the current situations we're in. One is obviously the world is coming to the realization that for quite some time our lifestyles might not be the same, and so things that may seem like short-term or medium-term investments to address the current COVID situation are now turning into medium, perhaps long-term investments. And so being prepared on a sustainable basis to ensure that we are prepared for how the world is evolving is very important to us. And to that extent, the second thing we've also learned is the response that the developed markets have had and the quantum of capital thrown to the markets is very different from how African countries are responding. We recently just saw that Nigeria and a few other countries have applied for loans to survive, to be able to get through this period. But you see the resource gap that exists between the response from Europe, America, and Asia versus the response from Africa. And I think as a consequence, it serves for us to think a bit more creatively about how we invest and how we use our resources better. The third thing is obviously the young people and the infrastructure they need is very different in this new world. And one thing that's been very clear has just been the inadequacy of digital infrastructure. And not just for the young people, for all of us in Africa. And so this is turning out to be an area of interest for us. I think that is becoming an area of interest for us. Now, I will, so the way we've responded to it has been the following. I mean, I think for Nigeria, and I did say on the last call, agriculture, healthcare have now become top of the areas that we are interested in. And there's some transactions that we'll be putting on and sharing with you on the platform, Hubert, in not too distant future. The first thing we've been looking at, and this has been a project that's been on the drawing board, but we're now working hard to accelerate it, is a basic chemicals platform. And we call that the basic chemicals platform because we've started out trying to make ammonia for the production of fertilizers. We're now expanding into other areas. And this we're doing in conjunction with OCP of Morocco. We've actually gone through the first phase of conceptual design and optimization of the project. And we're looking to start to raise capital for that shortly. And this will expand Nigeria's ability to be self-sufficient in things like fertilizers, which is needed for agriculture. And bear in mind, there are two other projects that are in the country one is about to be commissioned by Dangote, fairly large, 3 million metric tons capacity. Versus ours will be about 1 million metric tons for ammonia only. But then urea and a few other things will be added on later. Indorama is on the expansion of the existing plants, and there are two other projects on the drawing board. So there is a lot of focus on things that are going to be helpful for the agriculture sector. The second thing that we're working on is pharmaceuticals. You know, one of the biggest realizations for us is just how inadequate not just our healthcare infrastructure, but our ability to be ready in terms of providing ourselves with basic pharmaceuticals. And there are quite a few companies here in Nigeria, but more is needed. And we've been working with University College London to develop a program that's also now been accelerated. So we're taking this concept of investing in pharma and agriculture very seriously. So two of these transactions that have been in the drawing board are now being accelerated. Across the rest of healthcare, we've been investing steadily in certain areas of healthcare, in cancer treatment and diagnostics. We can expand that further. So you're going to see us shifting a lot of our resources into this area. The other thing that is happening also is that in a world where there's a paucity of funds, and there will be a paucity of funds for Africa, quite frankly, and I'm quite keen to hear what Hero has to say about that, because saying he couldn't find somebody to work with was a little bit difficult for me to reconcile, because I believe I'm here on the phone and I'm here and as Solomon Asamoah who will have something to say on this. My sense is that there is an opportunity for us to work harder and transition from funds management companies to asset management companies. And here's what I mean by that. One of the challenges of companies like ours is just the inefficient use of certain assets. And so we are now in various discussions with the government to novate those assets into our fund. So at the moment, we're in a long lengthy discussion on novating 3 major high toll road projects, a fourth one on the way. There are quite a number of other assets that are yet to be announced that we are now in discussions to have novated so that we can either manage a better risk capital for them as a way to drive better efficiency. So this has been a very good opportunity for us, and sad as it may still seem, but it's an opportunity for us to introspect and work very hard at addressing the things that are real basic gaps in the economy. The reality that we're facing up to is we're working as if that this is not the only pandemic. We're working with the reality that this will stay with us for some time, and there'll be many more in the future. So building the infrastructure necessary to address this now and address it in the future is what is in many ways reshaping our investment philosophy. So agriculture, I've said that before, pharmaceuticals, and then taking on existing assets in the country and transitioning a little bit away from just placing capital in allocating capital in both the bond and the equity markets, but driving more the engine of our infrastructure investments. Now, for those who have no background to the NSIA, which is the organization that I lead, 50% of our assets are now committed to infrastructure. And the top 5 areas for us in investments now are healthcare, agriculture, roads, power, and gas industrialization. And there's a lot more of what's happening with gas industrialization. I'll give you one last information before I leave. Nigeria has had this program of flaring gas for some time. And some of the stats I see is that as much as 2 billion standard cubic feet of gas is flared every day. 2 years ago, a policy was put in place to stop that, and that policy has helped. But turning that into productive product is now something that beginning to shape up how we look at gas. So we look at gas as something really investable, and there are so many opportunities to jointly invest here in the country, not just to make basic chemicals like we are producing, but we're turning some of the gas sites into LPG. And I know it may sound counterintuitive, especially for some of our colleagues who are listening from the Scandinavia. We actually believe that this is good for the environment. And that's only because the alternative is flaring this gas. And so we are now talking about turning it to LPG to stop deforestation. One of the things you notice when you come to a place like Nigeria and maybe some other African countries is the rapid pace of deforestation. You ask yourself, why? What's going on? Deforestation in Africa has been largely because people use firewood for cooking. And that, I think, with a large, fast-growing population in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, particularly in Nigeria, it can turn into something quite serious. Meanwhile, gas is being flared. So we think, and one of the projects we're working on, we've applied to Click Foundation for carbon credits, and I think it's something that should pass because it actually does help the environment and at the same time helping stop deforestation. So some of the things we're working on, these are the areas, but this has been a wonderful moment of introspection, looking inwards, looking at the assets we have and seeing how we can use them more efficiently. And I think, and I've said this before, and I've sounded like a broken record, but for us right now, healthcare, agriculture, very interesting. And quite frankly, for those who look at it as social investment in Nigeria, the sort of returns we're seeing are in the mid-teens to high 20s in terms of IRR for some of the healthcare projects, as well as agriculture is a lot less than that, but healthcare certainly huge demand in a place like Nigeria. I'll stop here, Hubert, and thank you for that.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.